Welcome, everyone. This is Dan with Spiritual Underground Podcast, coming to you from my little backyard wood shop, also known as DTM Enterprises. If this is the first time you've tuned into this podcast, it is a 12-step recovery-based podcast. We also explore other areas of recovery, like yoga, mankind, TSSR, any branch, anywhere where people are looking to be better versions of themselves day by day, I'm interested in it. And we talk about it here. But most part, we talk about 12-step recovery and recovery from drugs and alcohol. We're in the middle of this whole Covid-19 deal. And it's got a lot of people with a loose foundation. So we'll be talking a little about that today. I was supposed to have I invited four people here to talk about this today, and three of the guests have made a decision not to get out and about, which is, frankly, I think that's actually
more responsible.
But also, on the other hand, I don't think it's any issue for two guys to come sit together and do it as long as everybody's healthy. I don't think that's what they're saying not to do. I don't think there's any risk in that. So Kevin's joined me here today. I'm glad that he has, because I think that actually, I always do think that things work out the way they're supposed to work out. DTMWW.net, any handyman services. If you're out there and need something fixed, I'm still working. You don't mind me coming to your house, I will come do it. So give me a holler. I somewhat hesitate to put my phone number on this podcast, but you can find me. DTMWW.net. Facebook page of DTM Woodwork and Handyman, Instagram page. You go find any of that, you'll find my telephone number. I'm a pretty available dude. TSSR, 12-Step Spiritual Recovery, is a book by James Christopher Cone. It can be found on Amazon. We celebrated 1 year anniversary of the meetings Thursday night, and we chose to have a face-to-face meeting that night against a lot of people's feelings about that, but we practiced social distancing and we did the things that we were supposed to do, and we wanted to celebrate that 1 year together. Frankly, I walk in a spot of being safe and protected today, as this book tells me I am, and I'm actually not worried about much of this. It does have me shaking a little bit just because of it's messed up my routine, and it put some fear around employment and my father. My father lives with me, but he's healthy as a horse. And never had any kind of stuff go on. I don't think he'll get it either. And I really do feel like I travel safe and protected today, so that's not really scaring me. And I understand it ain't about me; it's about our society. So, I'll try to do my part in that. But we went ahead and met. We also did a combined Zoom meeting. Seems like these virtual meetings are what's going to happen, and I bet you the podcast is probably going to be maybe operating like that too in the future. Which actually is rather convenient. I like to have somebody sitting here. I like being with people today.
I don't think I could do it. Like, it'd be hard to have a conversation with you. There's too much stuff going on at home. TV, video games, kids, wife.
Yeah, you'd have to do something to get isolated. Probably.
I'd have to sit in the truck or something.
Yeah. Now, one thing is I've done these things remotely audio only a few times. And I don't really care for that. And I had the Zoom thing in the past, but I just had a little trouble messing with it, and I gave up on it. But we could actually see each other through that, and that would be a lot better, because you'd be able to see when somebody's giving verbal cues, and you can see when somebody's getting ready to talk and things like that, which you don't get. So that TSSR book is on Amazon, and my meetings are going great, and we're delivering these 12-step tools to people who formerly weren't able to access them due to not fitting into any of the traditional 12-step fellowships. And I just love that, and gave away some 1-year tokens. This is not to beat my own horn at all, but I've been making wooden chips for that meeting, because there are no chips available for the TSSR movement. So I've been making them out of wood, and I want to do something special and put people's names on the ones for the 1 year anniversary, and so we'll have the opportunity to hand those out, and it's a way I get to another one of the many ways I get to participate in my recovery in a very unique manner. So we did that, and then we're going to move forward with Zoom. We actually Zoomed some people in, video conferenced them in. So some people were remote, some people were face-to-face, and that was interesting. I know some meetings around here, specifically on this side of the river, on the Indiana side of the river, have been doing that. I saw it on Facebook posted that you could access. They were still going to meet face-to-face, but you could access it through virtual manner, too. Some of the ones up in Floyd Knobs.
I haven't seen that.
So they've been doing that, and it worked out real well. Darren Frank's music's wrapped around this podcast. He's quarantined, any of those kind of situations of in a rehab nursing homes type of facility. He's locked down, and they're not allowing any visitors. So send him some prayers, because man, there's a couple things I don't like. I don't like being told what to do. I don't care what it is. I do not like what
We're sitting here talking to each other face to face right now,
Yeah.
which we've been told not to do.
Yeah, well, I don't know that we've been actually said not to join
probably
together
shouldn't do it, at
one on
least.
one. I mean, the thing is groups of people, right?
Yeah, because you don't know who's there.
Yeah.
And it's also, if one's there, then everybody's
It may be
carrying
an
it around.
uncontrolled environment.
Yeah.
There's really been, we know what's up out here. We're in this wood shop, and although I'm probably not this is not necessarily sanitary, it's probably also not infected. There's been nobody else here, me, Dad.
Get that cat scratch fever on your
Yeah, I
arm.
do have the cat scratch fever from Kathy's crazy ass cat attacking the last few days. But I don't like to be told what to do at all. I even sometimes will find myself, my sponsor will suggest that I do something, and as much as everything in my core knows that I'm to listen to that today and have an open mind. I'll still, the other night he was saying something to me, and it was about this crap, and I slammed the gate mentally, nope, I reject that premise. And he saw me do it too, because he reads me like a book, and that's really scary when your sponsor starts knowing, when he knows you so well that he just looks right at you, and I can't pull no wool on him. I can't. It's not possible. And I specifically don't like being told what to do by the government, even more so than just flat out not being told what to do. So I had to really try and work to comply. I have some jobs to do too, how you make a living, and I know other people can't, but I actually can, and people need their shit fixed still, even through this process. People's stuff still breaks. So I was at a couple people's houses this week, and it's all of them had suspect people in them as far as from an age standpoint. They were potentially compromised people in the house. Now, it probably doesn't have anything to do with me that much, although I guess it could. It could come back the other way, because a compromised person is not more likely to have it. They're just more likely to get it and get really sick from it.
Right.
But I ask them, right, you still want me to come?
Yeah, let them know that
You want me to?
the risks.
Yep. And one thing was just a little tying up. A couple things were just tying up some loose ends. And I wanted to do that too, because I don't want, if we do end up with right now we don't have a shelter in place rule. If we had a shelter in place rule, like by the government in this state, then probably you shouldn't be here technically, right?
Right.
We should both be home.
Right.
But that's not the case here. But I'm afraid that's what's going to happen.
Well, I think it's probably coming.
Yeah, because I think the states to our left and right both have already. I know Illinois has.
Has it?
Yeah, they've already instituted one. And it doesn't mean you can't go anywhere. You can still go to the grocery store. You can still go to gas. You can still do that, but just nothing non-essential, And so, as goofy as this might sound, I don't want those loose ends I've left at places because I was unable to finish a job because I didn't have a part or didn't have something.
I know exactly what you're saying. It's
I
awful
cannot.
to be.
Actually, yesterday was able to run around to 3 different people's houses and tie up all my loose ends. So they are. All that, then that feels good, right? I don't want, because it could be a month or 2 months or whatever, and I don't.
It weighs heavy on you to have stuff open like that. It's terrible.
I'm a task-oriented dude, man, and my life runs with little items to do with a box next to them, and I need that box with a check mark in it.
Oh yeah, it's important to me too to be the guy that gets things done. Like you don't want to be the guy that gets things almost done.
Yeah, and that's a big time thing in the handyman and construction world too, is people don't finish the job.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
I've listened to clients and I've listened to people complain about people not calling them back, people not being communicative, not having good communication with people, not letting them know what's going on, not being able to be on time, and not finishing the job.
That's why
I can do all those.
I got into construction, so I didn't have to do any of that stuff.
So I was getting ready to go someplace with some of that. So, we was talking, one of the things, when you ended up being the guy who was still available and wanting to come, and I almost tried to talk you out of it this morning, I wasn't wanting to talk you out of it, but I was wanting to give you any out that you needed to take, because I felt a little bit like you were a little bit like hesitant, and you just didn't want to not fulfill your commitment, just exactly like we were just talking about. You didn't want to not finish the job, so to speak, that you'd committed to doing.
I can't leave commitments open. I had to come. I was going to come.
I feel that way too, really bad.
I can't do it. If you'd have said,
don't.
Yeah, if you'd have said I've got this, I'd be like, oh, it's okay, Dan. But like, I've never been able to do that.
Yeah,
I can't do it. I
hate when
people do it to me. Like if I'm planning something, so I can't do it to other people. But if you cancel plans, like that's the joke, right? Like, I'm so happy when people call and cancel plans for me.
Yeah, well, I was an inch from it, but the flip side of that is I've made a commitment. My commitment is to provide content on this podcast, new content weekly.
Yeah.
And I made that commitment, and I've been doing it for a little over a year now, just since January of last year. And although I have some other avenues, I kind of really wanted one more face-to-face anyway before I had to go virtual for a certain amount of time. But if it happened, and I did have a little bit of I was disappointed last night when folks started canceling. It's just on me. I was looking forward to the fellowship.
I was looking forward to it too. Yeah.
I was looking forward to getting together with a little group of guys because we haven't been able to really do that. And I thought, well, and I also frankly thought it was relatively safe too because we were just spread out here and it wouldn't be a big deal. But I understand all their ends of it also. So it's not, that was my disappointment, not a disappointment in my friends. That was just on me that I was disappointed that it was caving in. But I believe that you're here for, I always believe everything happens for a reason. And one of the things that I really have in my heart at the moment is folks who are early in recovery or, like, and try, I went to 7-8 meetings a week when I was new. And it was vital to me. And all of a sudden, those aren't available in the same way that they were available to me before. And I'd tried online meetings at times, and I'd actually gotten a little something out of them a couple times when I was early on. It'd be 10 o'clock at night, and I'm sitting around kind of coming out of my skin a little bit thinking, okay, and I'd dial in on a meeting, and it would just be a phone-type meeting. Actually, they were chat meetings. You typed. You didn't even... wasn't even verbal.
There's no way.
Yeah, you had to type.
There's no way.
Yeah, I was a bitch, and I'm not a typer either.
Chicken pecking.
Yeah, but I've chicken pecked long enough, and I'm half-assed decent at it, especially if I'm focused and I don't have any outside influence screwing me up. And I don't get too hung up on perfection either. Yeah, they'll understand. Well, and we've gotten used to that with text, right? All kind of who knows what comes, especially with voice to text. You go. You apologize for some misspelled word, and it's like, yeah, I understood what you said. TGAT, I knew that was actually that, not that. But people new in recovery, and you're how far along are you right now? I saw you post a number this morning.
I think it's 83 days.
Yeah, so
I'm
inside of 90 days.
Yeah, and
all of a sudden having your meeting opportunities come slamming shut, and I know that you've been going. You've been going to quite a few meetings, right? I mean, I think you have been.
I try to go to. I try to do one every day, but it's I've got wife, kids, work. It's
so multiple a week anyway.
It's an excuse, but I go to multiples a week.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, boom, the doors go shut. And it was something that kept me. I really looked forward to meetings early on, and I knew it was keeping me day by day. I say it like this. And a lot of people, I don't know if they remember, back when the TV used to go off in the middle of the night, like if you fall asleep, and it would just go to static. Mm-hmm. Every morning I would wake up with a low-level static, just hissing just barely. And throughout the day, that static would get louder and louder and louder in my ears. And, I could usually always get through the work day. I didn't really have to drink at work. But when I got off work, I stopped for a beer, within 15 minutes or as soon as I could get out of the door to a can of beer, I would do that and did it for a long, long time. And then I would drink until, I went to sleep, until I ended up cashing out for the night. But that's when I was not drinking, that static would raise up all day long. I think I was doing it when I was drinking too, but at 5 o'clock I could close the static off with a beer. Or whatever substance I happened to grab a hold of on that particular day, multiples. But a meeting would calm that static down at the end of the day and quiet it. And then I would be okay. And then in the morning, I'd have it again. And it would come getting louder and louder. And I would get to a meeting, or I would do step work, or I'd meet up with dudes, or I'd do something to participate in my recovery. It would quiet that noise in my head. And I really can't put a label around what that noise was. If it really was static, that's just my analogy of the angst and the buildup that would happen to me as I went along my day.
Right.
That a meeting would quiet. Now, I don't really feel the same thing out of these. Although we had a good one the other night, Tuesday night Spiritual Underground meeting virtually was right on par. I was really uplifted at the end of that. We came in early, so we were able to shoot the shit early, just like we do when we show up beforehand. And some of us stayed late and shot the shit. The only problem is you got to take turns, and we can't. Like you and I might step aside and talk for a minute in a real meeting, and then somebody else, and maybe 3 or 4 of us are standing around in a circle, and there's another 3 or 4 guys standing in a circle, and we all kind of do a musical chairs at some point, and you mosey on, and you talk to some other guys for a minute. You can't really have that kind of freedom in this virtual thing, but it worked for me the other night. Of course, I was doing it on a PC too, and I don't think I'd do it on a phone, on a PC, on a computer.
I'm doing it on a phone, and it's good. Like you said, it's just not. It's not as good.
I actually set up 2 computers. I have a PC, which is Windows-based PC, and this is a Mac. And the only reason I have this Mac is because it has GarageBand, and it has a built-in tape recorder. And basically, this machine right here is nothing more than my podcast tape recorder. That's really all I do with it. I do a little podcast maintenance with it, but that's it. So I set them both up, and I logged in on both of them. So I was able to put the gallery of pictures
that's
over
cool.
on one screen.
See everybody,
and then the left screen I set to the speaker. So whoever was sharing would be big on this screen. And I would have to page to see everybody because we had 28 people. But I'd had to page back and forth to see everybody. And I also got two mice, that one of them is running one computer and one's the other, so I'm fooling around. But I'm pretty good at that.
Ambidextrous.
Yep. And it worked really well. On a phone,
it's just
limits it a bunch.
My house is not huge. I think my voice carries pretty well. And then, yeah,
you have a strong voice.
Now you got a grown man talking to a phone, and your wife and kids are like, what the hell is he doing in there? So it's
and then the background noise, that's another thing about these online meetings. The mute discipline is huge because you could hear background noise.
Yeah.
It was really, really distracting. Somebody sounded like somebody had a TV on, and there was other chatter where other things going on in the background. and the controller can mute people, but it's a little, whoever's hosting the meeting. But it's a lot easier if people would have their own mute discipline to unmute themselves when it was their turn to share or whatever. But it worked out pretty good, and I think we'll get better at it too.
Oh yeah.
That was a first run, and now everything's going that way. The Token 3, which is a clubhouse kind of thing where they have meetings here, was they were the last soldier to my knowledge of open meetings. And they closed yesterday at 5 p.m. after the 4 o'clock meeting. And they held out for a while because the Kentucky governor had suggested that they not do that, but they held their ground. And I understand that because it's important, and that we have places to go do that. I have a little bit of a fear about you looked on all those people on the meeting the other night. Some of them were laying in their beds, got their head back on a pillow. Some of them got their in their easy chair, and we could get used to that.
I like
the face-to-face. I like the interaction.
I like walking in the room and these dudes are happy to see you. There's hugs and stuff like that. Like, you don't do that with you. I try to do that with my friends, but a lot of people are a little bit strange about that or whatever. But
yeah, that energy of walking in a room and people seeing you and lighting up when they see you and that kind of stuff is really, it is. It's an energy that you don't get many places.
Yeah,
I don't know that I get it any places.
That was a big draw to the Spiritual Underground for me was, the first week you meet so many people that it's hard to even remember faces. And the second week I walked in, and you were one of the first people I saw, and I don't even know that I remembered meeting you the week before. And you're like, Kevin, right? And I'm like, yeah. Like, who are you? And you gave me a big hug, and you're like, I'm glad you're back, man. And I'm like, I'm glad to be here. So
yeah, and I think that night we got introduced like 5 times by 5 different people.
Yeah,
I think everybody was standing around and said, "Do you know Kevin?"
yeah. I think that was the night I came with your brother. I think
Might have been.
it might have been the week after that. I can't remember. It's because I met your brother first.
Right. Over here.
Yeah, I kind of followed Dan Neil around. His sponsor actually bought me my big book.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, we were sitting at the Hilltoppers, and he's like, "You got a big book?" And I was like, "Actually, I got an NA book that I got in treatment just because the book looked cooler." Like I didn't have any problems with narcotics or anything like that. I just thought that the book looked cooler, so that's the one I chose. And he's like, "No, you need to get rid of that. You got to get a big book." And I'm like, "All right." So
I have one. I have both.
well, I still got mine. I didn't get rid of it, obviously, but
I work out of the Alcoholics Anonymous book, but I've read the Narcotics Anonymous book and get the message that's in there. It's a little different.
so he goes, "You got $10?" And I was like, "Man, I didn't bring any cash." And he's like, "Well, don't worry about it. I got it." So he goes over and he gets one of the books out of they get the Tupperware there, and he gets the biggest goddamn book in that. Like he gets the old man, like 3-inch
Large print. The softcover large print
and he
book.
slams it down on the table, and I didn't even touch it. I just looked at it like, I'm not gonna pick that book up, dude. You gotta be out of your mind. And luckily, like I probably stared at it for 5 minutes, and he's talking to me, and I'm just looking disgusted at this book. And like, luckily, he's like, "Hold on, I'll be right back." And he picked it up, and he went and got like a normal sized book, and I was like, "Oh, thank God."
Good, yeah.
I mean, I would have had to get like a backpack for that book.
Yeah, I know somebody that actually I worked with somebody that chose to. They wanted to use because I say when I sponsor a guy, I have some ground rules, and one of them, and I've told this story 100 times too, is that whenever Christopher first started sponsoring me, he said, "I'd like to sponsor you, but," and that "but," man, I was like, "Oh hell." Here's going to come all these things. Like I said, he's going to want me. Now he's going to tell me to do some shit. Mm-hmm. And I don't like to be told what to do. Same thing that we was just talking about. And he said, "You got a big book?" I said, "Oh, yeah." And he goes, "Is it hardcover?" I said, "Yep." And he goes, "Is the guy writing in it?" I said, "Sure does. I got a lot of stuff underlined and highlighted." And he said, "Get a new one." And I was like, "What? Get a new one?" And he said, "Yeah, we're going to start over. We're going to start over and do this thing from scratch, fresh again." So I do the same thing today. Get a hardcover big book. Mine is my little Bible kind of thing that I carry around. I know that's a little bit. Actually, my gal I'm seeing right now said that. She goes, "That's your Bible, ain't it?" I'm like, "Yeah, it is." But the hardcovers last longer. They just stay together longer. They're just more robust, and that's my notes and all my stuff and my guidelines on how to do this work are all in that book. And the first 164 pages are a different color than the rest of them because I've had my hands all over those, and it means something to me. Plus, that's the book I got sober with, and it really does mean something to me. If it starts falling apart, I may retire it and transfer my notes before it totally disintegrates, just so that I can keep it.
Build like a controlled box for it.
Put maybe vacuum pack it or something.
Put it behind glass.
I actually have that TSSR book that Christopher gave me because when I first started, he was handing that to me in manila folders, and I was reading it chapter by chapter on copy paper. And the last time through, I kept a set of it. I kept that. It's like the final manuscript, so to speak. And it's it's an 8.5 by 11 pieces of paper in manila folders, and it's probably a stack of, and my hand is showing off the table, probably about 10 inches tall of stack of manila folders. And I've been thinking about like vacuum packing it or doing something to preserve it, because I really do think that's going to go someplace, and I think it's going to be something worth keeping. Might as well go ahead and start the archives. It can't hurt.
Is that a local thing for the most part?
Yeah, it started here, and then right now there's 3 meetings in Louisville and 1 in Hodgenville. So yeah.
I don't know a lot about it.
It's just the 12 steps for everybody.
For everyone.
And, so there's three, it fills three niches in my opinion. This is Dan. It's the 12 steps for people who don't fit the normal 12-step programs, because these tools are viable for everyone. It's the 12 steps for people who have been a part of the 12-step fellowship and maybe want a deeper dive. Bill says in that book, in the Alcoholics Anonymous book, to continue. And so this is an avenue to continue rather than to continue going through the same material. This is a little deeper dive. I would say a lot deeper dive, but can be a deeper dive as you want to take it, actually. And then its third is it fits this niche where people who have come to AA and NA and other fellowships and really didn't get what is available for whatever reason. I almost would like to say it didn't work. But it's not that it doesn't work, because this thing works if you work it, right? We say that over and over again. But if it didn't work for you, because it doesn't flat out. Some people come in and it just doesn't land for them, and they don't like catch what I have. That's an avenue for there. So those are three things: for the people who want a deeper dive, and the people that the first runs of trying to go through this work didn't work for them. That deeper dive might get them grounded quicker.
How's that work? Is it required that they stay sober during?
No, it's an interesting thing. I actually have the lead next week, and I'm going to talk a little about that. About abstinent dates, or what do you do? No. I kind of ask my people, and the book does too, that you refrain from putting substances into you while you're doing this work. It's just a little counterproductive to sit down and get ready to work on your 4th step and have a couple glasses of wine. So I ask my people to refrain. They haven't. Some of them don't. They have. Everybody has listened to me and done that to some extent. But like if they come to me and said, I was at the family's for Thanksgiving and I drank a beer, I'm like, yeah, no big deal, brother.
Yeah.
Because they're not. These folks aren't like me. They stopped at 1 or 2 and didn't do that. But from a standpoint of like abstinence, that's an interesting concept in TSSR, because what are you trying not to do, and I don't know that you have to have that in your life, but people have certain things, and I get to that when I'm talking to them about powerlessness. Like, give me some behaviors, or tell me your top 3 behaviors you're doing you wish you weren't doing. And sometimes you have to think about that, and say, okay, well, that's an assignment. Go home, and if you sit on your bed and close your eyes for 10 or 15 minutes and ask the universe to help you find the answers to that, everybody's got some things they're doing they probably know they shouldn't be doing.
Absolutely.
Or their life would probably be better if they weren't doing it. Some of it's straight up stuff that they maybe are doing outside, right? I run around the earth mostly being a jerk. I'm a dickhead a lot. I'm hard to get along with, but some stuff might be stuff you're doing over in the, on the side without telling anybody. The shit you're hiding, the stuff you're doing you ain't telling nobody about. Well, we get to that kind of stuff, and because I got to have some kind of framework to work that stuff around a little bit. I don't guess I necessarily have to, but I chose to say, okay, let's look at these things and let them be our focal points, or maybe let's just pick the big one, and we'll work this around that primarily. And maybe we want to set some. Had a really good friend that brought me to yoga, and she had been involved in OA, Overeaters Anonymous, and taught me some principles about like a green light, yellow light, red light in those kind of affairs. And like for me, a drug or an alcohol would be a red light. But like in food, you have to eat. It's one of the things that hit me real quick is like those poor people have to moderate. I'm unable to moderate.
Yeah.
They are forced to moderate.
That's something I thought about immediately. I was, why can't we just moderate? Why aren't they teaching us to moderate? I didn't mean to jump in there, but that's something that
jump
was
in, man.
That was definitely a thought that I had at one point. I was like, well,
I think a lot of people do.
They're saying that you can't moderate, but why can't we be taught to moderate?
That's one of the 2 fundamental things around a description of an alcoholic is the inability to moderate.
Yeah, I don't moderate anything.
Yeah.
I do everything till it hurts.
Yeah, most
everything.
of the time.
I work till it hurts. Everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, that
But
makes
I'd hoped that they had that answer for me. And after a while, I went back out and tried to figure out, thinking that once I had a good enough dose of Alcoholics Anonymous, that, maybe you poor folks can't moderate, but I probably can. And I left for, I would go back and I would leave Alcoholics Anonymous and begin to attempt to moderate my intake. And I would have some success at times. And at other times I wouldn't. And eventually I would basically run out of the ability to moderate altogether. I wouldn't, I know some guys that go 0 to 60 when they go when they leave the room, and they take a drink. I wasn't a 0 to 60 guy. I would shift through the gears of the 3 tonight and drink the other 3 tomorrow night. And then a couple of days later, a 6-pack. And then a couple of days later, another 6-pack. A couple more days, 12. Then I'm back up to, looking at the bottom of a case in the evening.
Yeah.
It wouldn't happen all at once for me.
Yeah.
But those people that moderate, so that red light, green light, you'd choose like your behaviors and you'd say, okay, this is my abstinence. This is my red light. And whatever that is for you, maybe for like in the eating in the OA world, it could be, let's say you're, pardon me if I say this wrong or whatever, but and I think I feel like I've talked about this a little bit, but I think it's with somebody, not on a podcast. If you were bulimic or anorexic, and whichever one of those ones purges, maybe purging would be your red light. That'd be your abstinence. I'm not going to do that. Cutters, people who cut themselves, who do self-harm, that'd be red light.
Right.
So like in TSSR, what is that for you, right? If your problem is rage and you yell at your kids, maybe that's the red light. I mean, it's an awful hard one to... But, the other thing is and Becky and I talked about this the other night. That's where we was talking about this. That was the podcast. I was talking about this a little bit. The other thing is why do I got to have like 100% shame? Like it's a zero-sum game.
What do you mean?
And maybe it is for me in alcoholism. But once I take a drink, I reset, and I've got this shame. Now I got to come back in and tell y'all about it. And feel bad, and y'all gonna go, oh man, and all that. Well, maybe in TSSR, or maybe in recovery communities, period, we can remove some of that shame off of that. That shame of relapse keeps some people drunk because they don't want to come back and say, I messed up, I failed, I fell. And it does. That's the truth in recovery and in alcoholics and addicts. Is that when they slip up,
they don't want
especially having some time under their belt, especially if they have some time under their belt, their chances of making it back are real low. You stumble out of the gates early on. Everybody does that. A lot of people do that. That's no big deal, and we accept it. So I guess my point here is like when you go out and you're doing this in the TSSR world. So I yelled at my kids today. It's not like I had to reset some date and get a new white chip and, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You just come in, fess up. Hey, I talk about it really. Maybe you don't even have to do it in a group. You call your sponsor and you say, hey, man, yeah, I did this. And you get free of it because I think we are. I think there is that thing that says you're only as sick as your secrets. So if you're still keeping that to yourself and you're doing it and not telling anybody about it, I don't think that's good for your continued progress. But we don't need to like shame you over it, make you get up and get a white chip, and not that that's the point. That is not the point of shaming. That's not the point. Of getting a white chip in a meeting.
At the very least, you're going to feel a little something.
Yeah.
There's got to be a tinge of it.
Yeah. So it's just interesting concepts, and I don't know what to do with it. I really don't. But I just have it in my heart that, this should be, let's make this easier. Let's make this, it's hard enough already, like to quit drinking and change these behaviors in our lives. It's very difficult to change, right? And anything that softens that ride a little bit, and not in the way that the big book says, an easier, softer way thing. That's not what I mean. But something that, that widens the path, so more people can walk it. And I don't know if that's the answer or not.
No, I mean, I think that there's definitely a draw to it. Like my wife came to the Spiritual Underground for a birthday night one night, And shortly before that, we were having a conversation. She's like, "You're just doing all this stuff, and I don't know what's going on, and you're not really talking to me." And I'm fairly new to all this. I don't have answers for her that she wants. And my sponsor said that he would talk to her or whatever, and she knows that, and he's told her that now. But she doesn't know what's going on, and then she walks in that room with me, and she gets to see the way that we interact with each other. These grown men, and it's not just grown men either. There's men in there that you want to be like, that any man would strive to be like. A lot of those men in there.
Yeah.
And she got to see the way that we're excited to see each other. We hug each other. We're genuine with each other. And she's like, "I see why you come here. I see why you like this meeting." And I tell her all the time, I'm like, this meeting would be good for any man, regardless of what they're going through. This would be good for any man to walk into. Almost to the point to me where it's like I almost need to protect it, like which is I know is wrong.
I do. I totally get that, man, because I have there's some protective spirit coming out lately. That's part of what we talked about earlier about the meeting kind of splitting up and some people having some problems with it. I got some protective qualities around it that I'm going, hey, hold on a minute. No, you are not going to change this thing. It's going to stay good. It's going to stay what it was.
It's almost like, you see guys that you, at other meetings that you like, which I met a lot of people that I would consider friends. I love these people.
Right, yeah.
But a lot of times you sit there and you're like, should I invite this dude to my meeting? Like, is he going to fit in at my meeting? Like, it's not even my meeting, but
Yeah, but I like that, man, and it is my meeting.
Yeah.
It is my meeting and yours and ours. But, yeah, I get that. I understand that spirit.
Yeah.
And I'm like that too, man. I'm picky about who I tell. I don't just go tell everybody about this meeting.
Well, I got to the underground through Travis. Travis dated my brother-in-law's wife at one point, 100 years ago. I don't know when they dated. It's got nothing to do with me really, but I guess they stay in contact. And I hope I'm not busting Travis's head.
You didn't say his last name, so there's a bunch of Travises out there.
But she showed me the text message that he sent, and it was like, tell him if he's not a tool or a douchebag, he can come to this meeting on Tuesday night. And I was like, I don't think I'm going to like this guy. I don't think we're going to get along very well, but, I love Travis. I'm so grateful to Travis for what he's given me.
Yeah, it's like handing you, when you get to come. I want to be a little less of a cheerleader about it, but I'm gonna stop being a politician. It's like he gives you, when you get handed that, it feels like a golden key. It's like, shit, man, the dude just gave me this code to the secret handshake where I get to come in and I didn't know this was available. This is not what like you said, I see good people all over. AA is full of great people, right? But like a concentrated amount in one spot doing what we're doing, I'm not finding that any place else.
Well, you don't see what we have either. I've been to other men's groups. And there is a tendency in my mind for men to be kind of miserable. I don't know what that is, but
it's like a little martyrdom kind of thing, like almost like we should be like my cross to bear kind of, okay, we will trudge along as men. Do 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 do.
And in my mind, I'm like, man, if I'm gonna be miserable, I could be miserable and drunk.
Yeah, that's it. Gets talked about a lot.
Yeah. So when you walk in these rooms and you see these people that you want to be like, and they're interacting with each other the way that, I want to interact like that. Like, I've heard it in the meetings, like, the world's not safe for men. Like, it's not easy for me. This is something I noticed. Like, you just got a call from somebody that, is in the program, and they say, like, nobody says, I love you. Like, I love you, Dan. I do love you.
Right. I say it too, man.
It means, this relationship means a lot to me, and I love you. But what I hear a lot as men, what we do, I love you, bro. Love you. nobody, everyone, like, I don't know why that
Yeah, there's something about that eye.
the eye is such a hump for people.
There is something.
And when I say it, like, I feel like an uneasiness from them. And I know it's partly my uneasiness in saying it probably, but that's something I was working on before I went into the program, because I wanted my son to see me tell other men that I love them. I told my friends, and I didn't. Some people say it back, and some people are like, and that's their problem. That's got nothing to do with me, because I love these people, and I want my son to know that loving people is not. It's not. It's not unmanly. Mm-hmm. It's not something only women can do. We can love each other too.
Yeah, I mean, I was taken aback at the hugging in the beginning. I liked it. There was something about it that I was like, hey.
I love it.
But at the same time, I had a little rejection in it, and something that old training, old male training stuff that said that, you shouldn't do this.
Yeah, like I said, we work construction.
All that stuff, yeah.
We shake hands, and it's still hard for me. I put my hand out. Like, when I see you, I put my hand out to shake your hand. I'm getting to the point where I put my other hand up to grab you and pull you in, but it's hard to get rid of that. You put that right hand up to greet another man.
Yep.
Which we got to stop doing now.
Yeah,
so we got to start elbow bumping
together. But I find out I hug other people in life too now more. I learned to hug in AA. I learned how to love in AA. I don't know that I really knew how to do that. I didn't have it in my heart where I knew it and I meant it and I felt it. I would say it, but I didn't know how to mean that. I didn't know how to mean it with my kids. I had a barrier up with that. Even though I would say it and I wanted to mean it, it didn't have the power that it has in my life today. Same thing with, like in the beginning, the hugging. I did a little back slapping, wimpy hug. Yeah.
Oh yeah, your hugs are different than most people's hugs now. I can guarantee you that. Like,
I hug you like I love today.
It. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, and I was taught to do that. I didn't know how to do that. These men in this room taught me to do that. They taught about modeling it. They didn't. We didn't have classes on hugging, but they modeled that, and I began to be comfortable with it and started being able to do that and mean it myself. You can walk in there, you see it. You're right. There's an energy, and everybody that brings a significant other goes, "Oh, I see now."
Yeah.
Or whatever. Their dad, or they bring. My dad goes to the birthday meetings, and he sees what we have in there, and he can't hear, so he don't get to hear it.
I don't think you need to hear it.
Yeah, you can feel
I don't think you need to at all. I think to see those men act the way that they're doing, like, I can't wait. My son's too young to sit in there and not act a fool.
How old are
He's a wild man. He'll be 5 Monday.
Travis's little guy's about that age. He's been in a couple times.
Yeah.
And he's wild too.
And he's a wild man.
But he's pretty, he sits in there pretty good.
My son's probably wilder. But I can't wait for him to see stuff like that. Like I said, that's something I try to model.
Outside the rooms, and that's where we get to open up that kind of stuff, and I really want to do more of that.
I'm hoping we do a lot more of that
cookouts in the
too.
backyard, or that kind of stuff where everybody can come and pitch in and cook, and and I want to try and do some more of that. I want to try to open up the cabin a little more to that. Been having the men's retreats down there. And that's another thing. It's up in the air for the spring. I went ahead and kind of tentatively kept it on the board because I'm not quite ready to cancel it. So I want kind of like I don't know, when you get them wedding things that say save this date for October. So people can have opportunity to do that. And one day I'm inclined to continue to have it in May, and then another one it's like, hell with it. Let's just push it on out. That way we can not have it hanging kind of like those. It's got a lot of the same energy wrapped around it as those unfinished jobs. But I'd like to do some more. And I actually did, one year I did open up the place on, like, we had a retreat in May, and I think it was on Memorial Day, just a couple weeks later. I invited people down and bring their families and wives and all that. And we had a pretty good bunch of folks down there with the kids, and it was a blast. Kids love that place down there. And hell, any kid ain't, well, I guess you could say, there's some kids that don't like the woods, but I think that's one of them other natural things. Once they settle in a little bit, they might be have a little apprehension to begin with, but once they settle in, they're like, oh yeah, this is better than amusement park.
Yeah, a little freedom's good.
Yeah, ride around on 4-wheelers and swim in a pond. And
where is the cabin? Is it? Oh, you probably don't.
It's in Orange County,
Orange,
between English and Paoli.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't have an address really. I'll give you GPS coordinates. Is what I got. Renee gave me for my 2-year sobriety date. Gave me a token that was custom made, and it has the GPS coordinates of the
That's cool.
cabin on it.
Yeah, I'm hoping that there is more stuff like that. Like, even though I'm his dad, you don't want your son to be like, well, my dad's just weird. He just hugs people. Like, you want the other people that. And my friends are pretty good about that. I'm not saying that they're not.
I know most of these people that I'm running around with, children and wives, and if I see them out, I know who they are, I know their names. Of course, I got that little name gift thing that came with recovery for me. But
yeah,
we know each other.
Yeah, I've actually, there's other meetings that I really like. Fish Head Fridays is a really good one. It's got great energy in it.
Yeah, I've always liked it.
And you try to take that hugging energy to other places, and a lot of those guys are like, all right, buddy. We just shake hands here, boss.
Yeah. And like you said, man, the entire...
Bless you.
Thank you. I promise that's nothing more than seasonal allergies. It happened to me a couple weeks ago when LJ was here too, which LJ's podcast will come out in the morning. You can't take that hug everywhere. I tend to, and I also know who's okay with it.
Your audience is.
As I'm moving around. I've frankly backed off on a lot of my meetings because, and it's a little. Well, I sponsor a lot of people, so I'm like, the podcast and other things, and doing some admin work around my meetings. I kind of have somehow or another fell into some kind of admin role, keeping track of home group lists and communications and things like that. Mainly because nobody else was, and I just did. Somebody needed to do it, as far as I was concerned. I was feeling uncommunicated with. And so instead of complaining about feeling that, I began a mechanism of where we could communicate with one another, like the group meeting, like the little text I send out and all that. But I used to go to Fish Head. Fish Head was a regular one for a while, even when it was still at Clarksville Seafood.
They're still in the place.
I didn't like that, though. I didn't like that. There's something about that, like that smells good when it's hot.
Oh.
You know what I mean? During the daytime.
You're going to have to agree to disagree on that smell then.
When it's cold. What?
That smell.
What about it?
It's just bad.
That's what I said. Yeah, the smell.
All around bad.
Really all around bad?
Yeah,
smell.
I'm not real big on fish, so
okay.
I'm all around bad on that.
Like I said, it's okay when it's hot. It's like, I imagine chicken joints, the same thing. Any of that stuff. When it's hot smelling and it feels fresh, it's like, okay, I'm okay with this. But when it's cold and it's off and it's after hours, it turns. It's kind of like my dad owned a bar growing up, and I don't know if you. There used to be a bar out here off Charleston Road called Lone Star Bar and Tavern. It was where the old Tumbleweed used to be. When Tumbleweed was at the corner of Slate Run Road and Charleston Road.
Yeah.
Well, before that was the Tumbleweed. It was the Lone Star.
That was Tumbleweed as long as I can remember. I think Tumbleweed was like 87. I was born in 86.
Oh, were you?
I think so.
Yeah, I graduated.
Well, I know when I was born. I think it was 87.
I had to call Mom.
Let me check my license.
Yeah, right. I graduated high school in 87. And but Dad owned that. And I still today, that morning bar smell of the stale beer and all that, I still remember that from being a kid. But I go in a bar in my days, I don't smell that. But the cold bar,
Yeah.
tomorrow morning, it's they had the mats in there that so that it didn't like keep you above, almost like drainage grates down underneath the floor, where it kept you above the slop.
Yeah.
Awful. We actually designed lives around that. We made products. That's another interesting thing. And I heard that the liquor stores are going to close. Did you hear
Really?
that?
No, I haven't heard that.
Yeah.
There'll be a run on that next.
Yeah, there is. I think right now. Somebody said I don't remember, but there's some rumors already about, because you drive down the road and every restaurant's closed. The drive-thrus are open and they're packed, and the pizza joints are still delivering pizzas, and thank God for all that, right? But yeah, it's interesting that the liquor stores are still open. I was just telling somebody yesterday, I said, they close them things up for very long. That can be a problem. That's like that's taking the drug away from addicts, and there's only a certain while that's tolerated. People who really need that in their lives will have some issues when I broke in houses to steal pain pills because those weren't at the store. I couldn't just go down the street and buy them. But you can go down the street and buy alcohol all day long.
Mm-hmm.
For now.
Yeah, that'd be interesting for sure.
And I see the run on Facebook and stuff like that as it gets tossed around. Well, I'm going today and stocking up. If I ration myself, I can make it through.
That's how everything is. It seems like everything's getting its turn. I think they said they sold like 3,000 guns in Clarksville 3 days ago.
Yeah, I've heard the guns thing. Yeah, I keep my nose out of the news, but for whatever reason, I have this little bit of something like to touch base with it once a day or so. And last night, like they put the nightly news is on YouTube, so you can pause it and do all that. And so as I was laying to go to bed last night, I turned on one of the nightly news things, but it really is some serious doom and gloom, man. And I don't know that I can swallow it at the level that it's being fed to me.
It's definitely getting scarier. I thought I was kind of untouchable, just like everybody else said that it's kind of like a joke. Like, I'm 33 years old. I'll be all right. Like, I'm not going to get sick. I'm healthy. I'm not even drinking anymore. I'm going to be golden.
Yeah. And if you do get sick, you're probably not going to die.
Right.
You'll just get the flu.
Right. But now, with the, I just have no idea what it's going to do to the economy and stuff like that. And
that's scary.
I'm hearing about guys on the couch now from work, being laid off. I can't afford that right now. Like, that's, if work dries up, I don't know what the hell's going to go on. And I can't do side work because people don't want you in their house. I know you said you're working in people's houses, but, that might change too soon. So
it may change. Yeah, it already has slowed down. This past weekend was the first weekend I didn't have any leads off the app I use. It feeds me leads, and I have this little, I visualize this happening every weekend is that, people are busy at work all week and they're doing their deal and taking the kids to school and going to work, and then they're around the house on the weekend. And they go, well, dang, we need to get that fixed. Or, honey, when are you going to?
Yeah, when are you going to do this?
And they get on there. And so every weekend I'll end up with a little flurry of leads that will develop out some work. And last weekend, since I've been doing this little handyman gig, last weekend was the first weekend that I had no leads all weekend. I got one last night, but the gal didn't want to pay me. It's kind of funny. It's funny what some people pay you and then what some people will balk at.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. For sure.
She wants some, and again, and I have to. It's really hard to price yourself, but she wants a TV mount put in a limestone wall that's inside, and there's you gotta have mason hammer drill, and you're bringing special tools to the ball game, and you also have a little risk of cracking one of them things or something happening, and she didn't like my price, and today, I really, as I do this thing more and more, if I don't value myself, nobody else will. So I can't drop down into doing them out of my kindness of my heart kind of thing, even though there's a piece of me that really wants to do that.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. I'm an optimist, so it's hard for me to bid things like that because I always think I can do it, and I can do that in 20 minutes. And then 2 days later, I'm like, I'm supposed to be done.
Yeah, that's why after doing this for a while, I'm starting to learn that deal and to put some cushion in it.
Yeah.
And, and the other thing is I got to drive a half hour to this person's house and a half hour home. So even if it does take, and everything takes a half hour. You can't do nothing in less
Can't
than
get
a
your
half
tools out.
hour. Yeah, you can't get tools out of the truck. Get set up. You got to shake hands for a minute, and or talk and meet and greet for a minute. And there's another thing that I've had to build in is that people like to talk to me now. It might be actually the other way around. Maybe I like to talk to people.
Not a guy with a podcast.
Yeah, and but I'll end up having some time, and I know I can't really charge for that, but I also have to look at that because I know I'm going to be there for a little while. This is not going to be a walk in the door, and there is some people that I'll get into, like, and I don't mean this completely, but like almost some antisocial people once in a while that they just don't want, come in here and do that and leave, and you don't get much out of them. And I'd rather be a little friendly personally, but those you get in and out a little quicker. And I kind of, there's some, when you do it, you go, I was in and out there quick. But most people want to talk a little bit, especially like today with the shit that's going on around the world.
Yeah, they're happy to see somebody.
Yeah, they're talking, and they want to explain to me where they're at in all this, and a lot of them. Here's another thing, man. A lot of them are older women that I don't think they just don't have a lot. They don't have people in their lives a lot, and I'm okay with talking to them, but they want to socialize a little bit, and I'm okay with that. So I had to build that kind of stuff in too. I've learned, because everything takes a half a day, to be honest with you. Because if you're going to drive to somebody's place and you're going to execute some work and you're going to drive home, you got to block off that half a day for that activity.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to get compensated for that half a day. So I have to charge you at a half a day, not per hour. No matter if it takes 20 minutes or, and sometimes you lose your ass and you're there for a few hours and maybe you have to go home and get a tool and come back.
Yeah. I've definitely done that once or twice.
Yeah, but you were back talking about like not being able to work, and I don't want you to say where you work. Do you have an employer that you work for that you're like?
Yeah.
Because you're an electrician, right?
Yeah.
And I don't want you to say it, but I'm just like, sometimes electricians are contract kind of dudes that are like a little bit on their own, but working for somebody.
It's something like that. But
are you union?
I work specifically for this contractor, and I stay with them. But I have the ability to go out, but, we're not unique in any way. Work's drying up across the board. There's guys signing the book. It just means that they're laid off and they're looking for work.
Yeah, right. And signing the book at the union hall saying, "Hey, I'm available to work."
Yeah, and I'm not to brag or anything, but I think I take care of. Like I said, it's important to me to be the guy that takes care of things. So I think that shows, but that also doesn't matter at the end of the day. At some point, it slows down to the point where everybody's home or whatever. Then I'm also going to be home.
Yeah. Is there some seniority kind of stuff as far as that goes, or are you?
Yeah, but I'm not real high up on it or anything like that.
Right.
I've been.
Well, I was going to say, I was going to assume, because I know you had some other careers before this one, and that might put you on a little bit shakier ground potentially if it's some seniority things going on.
Yeah, I've never had it. If I wanted to work, I've never had any problem finding it. So
well, it's been really good lately.
Yeah.
I mean, I had no idea this handyman gig was going to rock the way it's rocking. I mean, I'm pretty much, up until this past week, I've been able to choose my jobs. That's the other thing, too. A job looks like a big pain in the ass. I don't have to do it.
Right.
I can pass.
Yeah, I mean, I try not to worry about it too much because there's nothing I can do about it. But
powerless.
Yep. That serenity.
Picture of me and you.
That serenity prayer is helping a lot lately.
Yeah, it is. Fundamental stuff.
I say it. I say it at least twice before I get out of bed in the morning, and I say it at least twice at the end of the day, and I think about it constantly.
Post this picture on our little group thing. It's another odd deal. Is that it's good that we have all this. This technology is a bane in some people's existence at some level, but like through these times, man, it's like critical for staying. Could you imagine if we were still on telephones or, regular telephones and no way to really contact people and like these group chats and different avenues that we can actually stay in contact with one another. I learned this group me thing from nicotine quitting, and they showed me that app, and I thought, hey, this would be cool in my recovery circles. And of course, people are a little hesitant to anything new in the beginning, right?
Well, it's a bit weird.
I wrestled my sponsees into it at first, so it was just me and a few of my sponsees in the beginning, and then as it caught fire, this particular one got 60-something people in it, almost 70 people. Not all of them participate, but
well, it's a bit weird. This is the same type of thing. Like I was not planning on talking about it here, but I was going to ask you, anonymity is part of the traditions. And I understand that it's
the spiritual foundation of all our traditions.
Right. So I understand that that's my option to give up or whatever, but it is a bit strange to have all this information. It's not socially acceptable to
more so.
It's more so. It definitely is becoming more and more, where people understand it's a disease, but it's not exactly great to have that information out there that...
Totally forgot the mood line.
This would be searchable almost. You know what I mean? I don't know how easy it would be to find, but
on the podcast, you're talking about because the
group chat's a little bit different.
Private. But, you have to be by invite, but there are a bunch of people in there, so you are giving up your anonymity to one another for sure. But that's not part of the traditions. The traditions actually not apply to within the group. So,
there's also I understand that it's fifth step stuff, but you're also you're putting data out there in other people's hands. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I have, I've never really been anonymous. I don't protect my anonymity much. And, of course, then once I started doing this podcast and stuff, my anonymity's out the window. I just grenaded it because I post on social media and promote this thing. As a matter of fact, and some people would take exception to that. Some hardcore traditionalists would take exception to what I'm doing here.
I don't know about taking exception to it, but the thought did occur to me that this is something that's going to be
There's some people have
possibly
declined to come on here because of their anonymity.
I believe that.
And that's okay. And I'm totally okay with that. You protect your anonymity at the level that you need to, and if that means not coming on here or that means having no pictures taken and published, I am totally cool with protecting your anonymity at the level that you wish me to do so. But I don't think you can tell me where my line is.
No, I don't think I can either. I think that's your choice. But it was just, the thought did occur to me. Yeah. Because, I'm not very far in the steps or anything like that. And also, thinking about court cases, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure prosecutors aren't sitting around Googling you or anything like that, but hell, I don't know. And I guess that's my alcoholic mind. I'm building.
I wouldn't be surprised about that. I would bet you that, and it probably matters what if you got a public intoxication or something, I doubt that prosecutors Googling you, but if you got something else, they might be.
Yeah.
To go out and see who you are. Like when I was in the middle of my divorce, my lawyer told me, do not post anything suspect on social media.
Yeah.
Don't want to load up anybody's guns. And one of the reasons I'm doing this podcast, and one of the reasons I ask people to allow me to post a picture of us together on the website, speaking of that, spiritualunderground.org, pictures of the guests and show notes and things like that, links to the podcast. Also, the first 3 chapters of TSSR audio is on there too if you wanted to get a little taste of that, what that's about. People will say, what's a TSSR about? Well, I read the first 3 chapters into there, and that'll give somebody a taste about what it's about without having to invest in the book. But back to the thing, is because I would like to draw down and I hope that to take a little bit of a line of helping to remove the stigma around this disease, so that they look and see that I am not what you think of when you think of an alcoholic, and neither are most of my guests. And by seeing these people, and like you said, it's some of that same energy of walking in that room of Spiritual Underground and going, hold on, this ain't what I thought it was going to be. When I first came to AA, I thought I was going to see the under the bridge kind of under the overpass kind of drunk. So I really did. In my mind, I wasn't sure what I was going to see when I walked into a room. I thought I was going to see a bunch of miserable people just trying to stay sober.
I thought I was going to see those old men.
And
Those miserable old men. I thought I was going to have to sit and, breathe in secondhand smoke and drink black coffee with miserable old men. And, that's out there for sure. Especially
if you want that,
we got the Token Club here in New Albany. You can go smoke cigarettes
and
and
go breathe the secondhand smoke if you want to.
Yep.
I will just put a little disclaimer out there that Token Club helps a lot of people, and a lot of people are hurting right now because it's closed. And if you're a hardcore smoker and you're trying to get sober,
Token Club,
there's a place you can go. And that's one of the great things about this recovery community here in the Louisville metropolitan area, is that there's used to be some 500 meetings a week, and if you weren't finding what you wanted, you just wasn't looking hard enough, because there's about every flavor of AA going on around here, in recovery in general, but certainly under the AA thing. If you want to go to a smoking meeting, there's one you can get to. I don't know of any others besides
I think it's the only one anymore.
And it runs, I'm pretty sure too. I've got a buddy who I'm starting to work with come into my life, and I don't think he'll have any problem with this. But it's interesting as you do this stuff, I met, in 2017, I quit nicotine, and I met some people, and then that led me to meet this gal that was an ex-smoker that is in the nicotine quitting world, and she lives in California. And we've become friends virtually, across the world. I've never met her. And a couple of weeks ago, she asked me if she told me about a friend of hers that was quitting, that wanted to stop drinking, and
I've seen him in the group.
Yeah, and contacted me, and now he's in our group and has asked me to take him through the work.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take him through the work between here, and he lives in Texas.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I believe it can happen. Well, there's two places in the steps where I really like to be with somebody. I'd like to be with them the whole time, but this is the third step and the fifth step. We are not to either yet, and we do this thing one day at a time. So, and I've done a third step with somebody across the internet already, and doing like FaceTime and that kind of stuff. And although yes, I would rather be with them, I think the same power is delivered. I think that universal power out there doesn't really matter. It's nice when we're close. It's not 100% required. And but my point is that they're still smoking down there in quite a few meetings. That's where I was going around. I go a long way around the block. Yeah. Yeah.
I can't imagine that.
Yeah.
You said you don't like to be told what to do. I think that's Texas state motto.
Is that on the flag?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But so I really thought that I was really surprised when he said that, because I just thought that was probably a thing that was nowhere. But he's like, "Oh man, they're smoking meetings here. I'll get tired of cigarette smoke." I'm like, wow.
You can still do it in Kentucky. They just don't in Louisville, I think.
Yeah.
I believe. I know I went to Land Between the Lakes, and we went to a restaurant, and they had smoking, and it's like, where the hell, what time machine did we get into?
Yeah, right. When I first started working at Vote, we was talking about that earlier, we smoked in the office, and I had a big ashtray right on my desk, man. I mean, and I didn't smoke, and I used to smoke, but you burn up a lot. I didn't smoke that much, I don't really think. But I burn up a lot of cigarettes in a day of work, because I would take a couple hits off of them, and they just burn up in the ashtray. And you light another one up, and and you'd end up with a big giant. And then you dump those stinky ass ashtrays into the garbage in the office, and it just blows my mind that we used to do that. Smoking in airplanes. I've been in an airplane when you could still smoke.
Oh my gosh. I remember seeing the ashtrays. I've never seen anybody smoke.
Yeah. The first time I ever flew, I flew to Germany to visit Neil. He was stationed in Frankfurt, Germany. And I think that was in 92. And you could smoke on that trip. They had a bar in the back of the airplane. You could stand around and smoke. And you could smoke at your seat too, but people would go back and you'd stand around this bar and order drinks. And people stood around just like a bar and smoked cigarettes.
It's so crazy. That's so wild.
I know, it is crazy. It's crazier than hell. So what are your feelings on, share with me a little bit about this whole thing about all of a sudden not being able to go to meetings.
I don't love the the online meetings, they're good. I like to sit and listen to them. But like I said, I've had no real desire to share because I feel like you're just holding this little phone in your hand and it feels dumb.
Feels so impersonal and
yeah, it's very strange. It's too easy to get distracted. I've got 2 kids at home, wife. You're trying to make dinner or whatever. I can't pay attention to people talking when I'm doing all this stuff.
Yeah, you have to set it aside. You have to honor it in a way. You have to go over in a room and close the door, almost like it's time to do homework or something.
But it almost seems like it's not fair for me to be there and not be there. Like for my wife,
like you need to drive down the street and sit in your car and do it.
It almost has to be something like that. Like I've got to go. I've got to go do something because when I try to do it at home, my son, he's interested in what's going on. Well, I want to go to a meeting. Like, why can't I be in the meeting? And it's like, well, buddy, this is kind of my thing. So the whole time he's waving into the camera and doing all this other nonsense, or like I said, I'm trying to make dinner. It just doesn't feel fair to me to be home and not be there. Like I'm trying to be in a meeting. So I don't love it. I've heard people say like, just get in the truck or, drive down the street like you said, but I don't know that would change it for me. I probably should try it at least once or twice.
Yep. I don't think you're having a choice because I think you're going to need to at least be in. So, I don't want to tell you what to do as a suggestion, but I think we need. I don't really want to do it either, to be honest with you. I don't want to, and I rejected it to begin with. In the first place, it come into my life is through the Mankind Project, this virtual thing, and I had taken off a few Tuesday nights to go to do Mankind for a little bit to go keep my toes in the water there, and they were doing. They said, "No, we're not going to do face to face. We're going to do it virtually." And I said, "Screw that, man! I'm going to go be with my brothers and meet them up face to face." I reject this Zoom thing completely. And they were ahead of the curve. Turns out they were exploring this avenue before we were. And I don't want to do it, but I need meetings in my life, and I need that today. I know I need that at some level. Not at some level. I need that, period. And so I'll keep on doing it.
I like it. I like to see everybody's face, like you said. I've been thinking I'm probably going to start trying to do it on my wife's computer. I don't have a computer. I just use my phone for it. I think that would help a little bit, even just something as simple as not doing it on your phone. I think that would help.
I joked around in my own head the other day about telling people they could come here. Because for the most part, my house is pretty quiet. And I have 2 computers. I was like, well, you can use that one. And we could actually sit in the same room together and be in a Zoom meeting together, but separately.
Yeah.
It wasn't really a joke, but I also still I don't think that we have to. We're not. Excuse me. We're not under 100% quarantine yet.
Yeah, but the more stuff you do like this, the more likely it is that you have that 100% quarantine.
Yeah, maybe.
The more you get together, the more likely it is that we have that quarantine.
Yeah.
I've been lucky enough though. I've had we met just down the street, and it wasn't really a meeting so much. I guess anytime 2 alcoholics get together, it is a meeting. But
so you just went and met somebody, just hung out a little bit and talked.
Brian he's going to meetings that he normally goes to, and he sits in the parking lot just in case somebody, a newcomer shows up. He's like, man,
I thought it was fantastic when he shared that the other night.
Everybody talks about that small window.
Small window of opportunity.
Yeah, small window of opportunity that once it's shut, it's shut. I don't know that I felt that, but I understood the sentiment of it. And since he was going, I was like, man, I'm going to go sit with you. And he's like, I'll be there. And I know we're not supposed to do that, but we ended up, and there was tornado warnings that night, so we really shouldn't have been heard. I don't know what it's a watch or warning. I don't know what the difference is, but we were sitting out underneath the carport. Yeah, Thursday at the Seekers.
Because we went to face-to-face when we weren't really
you had the
supposed
TSSR.
to. So, and earlier in the day, somebody mentioned that closing state borders. I heard somebody say something about that, so I'm like Googling that to make sure that I'm not breaking any rules by crossing the state line. And then we're not really supposed to be meeting in groups greater than 10.
Yeah.
And there was a tornado, whatever, going on. I was like, boy, this feels like a lot of rules to be breaking.
Yeah, we sat out underneath the carport.
Cool. How
How
far away from here do you live?
I'm in Jeff.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm 15 minutes maybe.
Yeah.
Probably less than that.
Because that is in my backyard.
Yeah.
I got married in that church.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never been in that church. I've been past it 100 times.
Yeah.
A couple times going to Steiner's.
Yeah. Yeah. We didn't go to that church. It's just the one we picked to get married in.
Yeah. It's close. Convenient.
Yeah. Yeah, I walked.
I bet.
It's another one of them ones, the pre-priming, man. I could not. Yeah, I couldn't go stand up in front of them people without having some beer in me.
Well, I did the same thing.
The pictures look like I'm scared to death, too. And I was. I was not happy about getting married.
We decided we'd write our own vows, and I'm a procrastinator to the fullest. If I don't have to do it today, then I'm not going to do it today. I assumed I was going to do it the rehearsal night, And one of my groomsmen was like, well, we're going out. And I'm like, I'm not going out. I got to go, my wife's at home. I got to go stay with one of y'all. And he's like, well, we're going out. I'm like, well, I can't go out, dude. I got to work on vows. He's like, well, we'll go have a few, and we'll go write your vows. And I'm like, I knew what was up. I knew what he was doing.
Yeah. We're not going to go have a few.
No, we didn't have a few. I had to carry him in on the night before my wedding. And then, we're getting dressed. I woke up late. We're getting dressed and trying to get my son dressed and everything else. I'm hungover as all get out. We're drinking. Then, I'm trying to take the edge off first and also trying to, kill some of these nerves. And I'm just like, well, as long as I hit the mark, I'll be all right. I'll be up there. I'll be able to go up there and bullshit my way through this. I did awful. I was stuttering. I was repeating myself. I talked for about 5 seconds. Yeah. Yeah, so I did the same thing. I pre-gamed the wedding and missed the mark for sure.
Yeah, I always overshot the mark. My daughter is texting me. Wants to know if her friends can come spend the night here. That's probably somebody else is wanting to know if I'm still podcasting. I probably should put this down. Can you add this feller to the group me? Yes, I can. Later.
Busy man.
So you already had kids when you got married? You said
we had my son.
Yeah.
He was a year old.
Yeah.
Just under. He was there.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a whole new element, like you said. Yeah. And now I got an infant to deal with. I had a wedding with a hangover and drunk buddies. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a mess.
Yep. We had my bachelor party at this house. Mom and Dad left. It was out of control. I think we did. That's the truth, man. Of course, that's a long time ago, man. I got married in 96. But there's a veil. I talk about this in the podcast. There's some veil where there's a lot of shit that's pretty cloudy back there. And the clouds are coming up, stuff. My future's becoming more clear, and so is my past. I just frankly don't remember some of that stuff as well as I might hope to. And some of it, I wonder about the books that's fancy to real. Some of it, I'm not sure. I think I told enough stories and lies about stuff for a while that the truth got obscured, and I ain't quite shook it out completely in my head. Some justification and stuff on some behaviors that I wanted to say one thing about, but I wanted to tell you this about it, but that wasn't necessarily true.
I was curious. You said, when we were talking earlier, off the podcast, you were talking about how you came to the realization, I hope this is all right, about your abandonment issues through working the program. And whenever I hear people say stuff like that, I'm always curious, I guess, how that realization come about. Like, was it something that you just did you feel like that light bulb turned on, or is it something that your sponsor pointed out to you? Is it something, did it come slowly? Did it smack you in the face? I don't know. You know, stuff like that. Like, just when
That
you come
particular
to this
thing come through more in a slower variety. It was from doing, the first time that I worked the steps, my sponsor told me to put my mom and dad at the top of my resentment list, and I kind of balked at that thought because I love my mom and dad, I didn't need to have them on my resentment list. He said, do it anyway. And I did. But I really wasn't willing to look at that element in my life at that point in time. So I just kind of breezed over it, and, this is a little bit of judgment on my part about my sponsor and that, but he allowed that. He wasn't going to hammer that away, but I do remember him poking them buttons a little bit. But, hey, how about? And I was, no, man, my mom and dad are great people, and they are. But it doesn't mean I wasn't picking up some shit because of it. They're being good or bad or whatever really has very little to do with the fact that what my perception and the baggage I carried as a result of it. Those two things can be completely separate and independent. But the second time through the steps, at that point I was a little bit more in position to look at that stuff. And it came about a little deeper as of course, by the second time through the steps, my mom had passed away by then.
Did it feel easier to resent her when she was gone?
I don't know if that's what that meant or not, but I knew there was some work to do around it because of missing her, and I never really grieved over it for a while. That was something that was weird. I didn't really grieve over that process, and I felt like almost guilty because I wasn't grieving over it. But when I went and, my sponsor, I can't really remember exactly how he said it, but, my noticer, I was beginning to notice that there was a lot of shit going on that wasn't quite right. And it was usually with you guys, with other people, not me. And when I started showing those symptoms, my sponsor said, hey, man, it might be a good time to go another trip through the steps here. And so I did. And at that time, this just happened organically that I looked a little deeper into that stuff. But it was really pointed out to me through fifth step of being able to, as I talked about the stuff and shared it in the fifth step, my sponsor helped me explore what was going on there. So it came more in that, not a slap in the head thing, but it came more in that process of doing that. And then some of it came still growing over the years after that too, from other work I've done, like going to yoga teacher training and going to a Mankind New Warrior training thing and doing work under that the continuing onion peeling that happens.
Do you think it was
more
something?
Will be revealed kind of stuff, more will be disclosed as I continue to work this program.
That's what I was going to say.
And I'm more clear today than I ever have been about it.
More would be revealed. Do you think it's something that you knew and weren't accepting, or?
I think it was something I was unwilling to look at. No, that was not on purpose. I think that's just part of the process. I got to get the drugs and alcohol out of the way and get the fog off of me and get that immediate. So another friend of mine says bullet wounds and paper cuts or something like that. I had to get the bullet wounds out of the way before I could even see the paper cuts. And this whole thing does. I've said this before too, and that when I first got to Alcoholics Anonymous, they told me I was spiritually sick, and I thought they were telling me I didn't have any religion, and I didn't. But I still was pissed when they told me I didn't. And I took offense to that. I was offended at their assertion of what they thought they knew about me being spiritually sick. Who are you to say that? What I've come to know today is that my spirit, my true spirit, my soul, and everybody I talk to believes that each person has this virtual kind of this universal fingerprint that's the same as the fingerprints on the end of my fingers are different than yours. I have this thing that makes Dan, Dan, and there is not another one like me anywhere. There's not another Kevin anywhere. And that is a unique thing about me, and that is my very spirit, my essence, my soul. And it had become sickened over the years and poisoned. It got stepped on. My spirit got stepped on from various things. And nobody, some people were stepping on me on purpose to some extent, but I don't think they were intending to hurt me, bullies and things like that. That wasn't like, let's get him, not the same energy like, a dude cut me off in traffic. Well, he didn't cut you off. He cut whoever was in that spot in the universe off. He was not aiming at you. It's not about you, me. That same thing, my spirit got stepped on, and it's paper cuts mostly. It's death by 1,000 paper cuts. It's not and some people do have a singular big event or something like that, so it's like a big catalyst, a big thing around it. But a lot of my stuff is the paper cuts, and through working this process and these steps in my life, I begin to find new paper cuts and other ways that I'm not operating in the way that keeps me. I continue to be able to operate in a better manner and be a little bit better version of me every day by continuing to patch up these paper cuts. And like the mom and dad issue is a bigger paper. It's to say that's a paper cut was not true.
It's a knife wound.
But it was like in my back or something where I couldn't see it.
Yeah, out of sight.
Yeah. It's interesting, and I see that, and I really do think that's important. I encourage my guys to do that, but not, some do and some don't. My sponsor encouraged me to take another trip through the steps. He didn't make me.
How many times have you done them?
3 in 5 years. But I've also done other things that were growth spurts for me in other arenas too. So like yoga teacher training was a lot like step work. It was inquiry. It wasn't just about learning to teach people how to do poses. We were doing inquiry work and meditation and looking at the things that made us who we are today. Try to unprogram some of the old programming. There's the same thing. Mankind is a similar kind of process where you're going and trying to unwire some of these faulty things going on in your past and try to get them straightened out so that our synapses are firing more cleanly today. So all that work I've done over the past 5 years has really had a big impact on me. And I think it's that way, like I said, that first time through the steps is like going in. I've said this before too, and I shouldn't keep apologizing for this stuff, but I like these analogies. It's like going into a horse stall and getting all, first time through is going and getting the big horse patties out of there, and the next time through is just, now I'm going to go maybe get some of the dirty hay out. And, as we continue to work on ourselves, before long, we're in there with a mop and we're getting ourselves pretty cleaned up.
That's what I was curious. You said you never really plan on having another sponsor, but I guess you're kind of working the steps, through the yoga and stuff like that. You said you're kind of working the steps
and every time you take
elsewhere.
Somebody through it?
Yeah, I could see that for sure. But you don't see any benefit to trying to do it with someone else, like
yes,
specifically under the spirit.
And my sponsor would totally be on board with that too, and has given me permission for that. That if there was ever a time I met somebody that I would like to take me through the steps, that I wouldn't have to sever the relationship with him in order to do that. We could set it on a back burner, and I offer my guys the same thing. If you find a new teacher and you don't necessarily want to drop me completely, and maybe you work the steps with this other person and you changes your mind and you want to go ahead and continue working with that person, but we wouldn't have to sever it. And I think we actually encourage that in our circles to go look for other teachers. I just haven't found that yet. I just haven't bumped into that. And there's been some times where I felt, somebody specifically lately, at some level, I feel like I gave them all I could give them, and I'm more than willing to continue to sponsor them. I'm okay with that, but I really do think I think I maybe gave them all I can give them, and in order for them to grow more, they probably do need a new teacher, a new person. And it's a decision on whether you want to completely make the jump and change sponsors, or if you want to take the avenue I just explained about you wouldn't necessarily have to continue. You wouldn't necessarily have to. I took somebody through the steps not long ago that I did that, just sponsored by my sponsor. The person was sponsored by my sponsor, and asked me to take them through the work, but they didn't sever that relationship with the old sponsor. They just went through the work with me. And then,
sponsorship's kind of a strange thing to me because it's not in the.
Not really in the book.
Not really in the book. So,
the reason for the TSSR model and stuff is taking some of these concepts that we've advanced. That's what some of the stuff that's in that book is stuff that where these concepts are advanced, like that particular thing right there. We've advanced that concept beyond what's in the Alcoholics Anonymous book.
It just seems like something that there should almost be like some sort of literature for in the book.
There is. Oh, yeah, in the book.
Well, I've never seen it.
There's a bunch of AA pamphlets and literature and stuff, and some of them are on sponsorship.
Yeah.
and give some guidelines on what that looks like today or what that can look like.
It's just
there's
such
no
an
rules.
Yeah, it's such an intimidating proposition to a newcomer.
Getting a sponsor.
I don't know that I ever would have had Mike not approach me.
It's a good thing that we do that. We say, hey man, you want a sponsor, and that's how I picked up the guy in Texas to some extent. I said he wasn't finding, he wasn't finding what he was looking for down there, and I said, hey, this just like what you said, there's a window of opportunity here, man, and I hate to see it slam shut on you when you've been so eager to move forward. So if you want, I will temporarily sponsor you, or I will sponsor you.
Yeah.
To keep your window opportunity going so you can continue to get some traction here, because I can promise you the window will slam shut. I don't know when,
but
you need to be getting some traction before it does.
Yeah, you go to these meetings and, a lot of meetings say, like, if you're willing to sponsor, raise your hand or whatever, and people touch the sky as quick as they can. And then they go right back down, like I mean, just like a free throw or something.
They don't hold their hands up,
straight, like
so you can't
before you can look around.
That's a good point. I'm gonna make that point.
That's something that I would say to everybody. Like, if
please raise your hand and hold it there for a minute, so the people who are looking for a sponsor have a moment to see your hand in the air.
Give somebody that's apprehensive about the whole situation 5 seconds to look around would be.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I remember doing that when I first got to Spiritual Underground, because I was watching for Christopher to raise his hand and he never did. And I'm trying to figure out, okay, who did he have his hand up or not? And it happened, like you said. Yeah, it's almost like some free throw shooters hold their damn follow through longer.
Yeah, they don't. There's no follow through in involunteering the sponsor.
That's a very good point, man. I'm going to bring that up.
There's a lot of things. Like, it's such an intimidating process. Like I said,
it can be. Especially for a newcomer, to ask somebody to sponsor them and all that is definitely intimidating.
And I can't say anything about anybody else, but like as a man, it's difficult to go to another man.
Help me.
And ask for help.
Terrifically difficult. It's kind of one of the keys. There's some underlying principles in here that's like, because that's so hard.
I'm so bad.
That's part of why it works.
Help. Yeah, I'm terrible at asking for help.
It's the same age-old thing about, it's the cliche of dudes not asking for directions when they're out moving around. A dude won't stop and ask for directions. Of course, we don't have to anymore. But there was a day when you didn't find someplace without a paper map, or going and asking somebody where it's at, and dudes just would not ask for directions. Girls, they'll holler out the window, hey, how do you get to... But not me, man. I will wander around aimlessly until I run into it. And that's the same kind of thing with recovery, man. We are almost willing to wander around just hoping we'll fall in the recovery hole rather than ask somebody for help. But when you do ask somebody for help, it's another golden key, man. It's when like the door unlocks a little more. It continues to open up, and those little incremental shifts in our consciousness is part of what makes this work.
Well, it gets to be so overwhelming. Like, I remember, I'm trying to remember how long I was in the meetings before I actually met Mike, and he offered me my temporary sponsor at the time. Now he's my sponsor. But, between these people that say how important it is, it's the most important part about this is finding a sponsor, and you aren't finding a sponsor. Like I said, it might have been a week, but I was like, this shit ain't gonna work for me.
Yeah.
Obviously, because I can't ask these people for help. Nobody's asking me if I need help. So what the hell am I gonna do?
That's why I try to be so approachable.
And it becomes more. It like piles on. It's like, well, I'm doing this wrong.
Because it's hard,
wrong.
and if you're not like, so I try to be friendly, and again, it's not like a motive I have. It's come naturally or whatever, to do that, to say, hey, my name is Dan. You ain't been here before, have you? Well, welcome, and try to be somebody who somebody starts feeling like they maybe can talk to, And it's not meaning, I say this too, man, I don't know if God wants me to sponsor you or not, but I'm going to throw my name in the hat. And, I got a whole new motive nowadays, man, because I want my guys that I sponsor, they need sponsees, and they can give these tools to you, and they need to be able to do that. So maybe I'm going to sponsor you, but I'll see if my guy will.
Yeah. I would say on the flip side of that, too, though, because I had a guy that came on real strong.
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh, man, I don't think it's going to work out. Like, you could tell he was like, ask me. And I'm like,
yeah,
good to see you, buddy.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things.
It's an interesting thing we have here.
Yeah.
Sometimes some bells will hit me, and I'll like see some light and why something works, and it'll be gone. I'm like, man, I should have wrote that down. There's so many little hidden gems in this process, like that, asking somebody for help. You know, it seems so innocuous. It seems so, it's hard to do, no doubt, but it doesn't seem like it'd have any value. But there's a huge amount of value in asking somebody. That's a simple act of asking somebody to help. And a simple act of doing what somebody tells you. Like, call me every day. God damn, I don't want to call you every day.
It's so hard for me. That's one of the most difficult things about being a sponsee is
calling every day.
He's like, call every day.
But there's such a shift in that, man, and it's weird that there's a thing, and it's non-negotiable with this dude.
Yeah,
It is I'm not going to fire you because you miss a day, but I will go, hey, when I said that, I meant it.
Yeah, I'm terrible at it. I hate picking up the phone.
I would too. I had to set an alarm in my phone, and I hated doing it. And I remember sitting at work with his phone number staged in my phone, like ready to hit the send button to make the call, and like going, and I couldn't and I'm like pretending like I'm gonna push a button in my phone, and I can't do it, and that's the way it felt. Like I couldn't, and I would almost have to like close. I remember some days, honestly, no shit, like aim my finger at the button and close my eyes and just tap the screen so it will make that call.
I've done it.
Like, God damn, I hate to call this dude, man. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to.
I've also figured out like you can call at certain times, and you're probably not gonna get an answer.
Yeah. I try to actually. It's another thing I try to do with my people. I try to schedule a specific time that we're going to do that because so that I have some routine, and there's also some things about having some routine in your end of things too. You know that old thing about God being good, orderly direction. So for years I talked to my sponsor at 2:00, and he told me, "You're gonna call me every day. You're gonna call me between 1 and 3." So I started calling him at 2 because 2 is exactly between 1 and 3. And we did that for years at that time frame. I mean, years. I don't talk to my sponsor every day anymore. Not too many days go by I don't text him. But I got fairly good, stable sponsees that are calling me every day, and he understands that. And we have a weekly date night thing, and it's getting cussed right now. We get together and watch The Walking Dead every Sunday night.
Really?
And I treasure that time together. But under the current conditions, we postponed that for a little bit. And he does have some compromised immunity stuff going on, and I won't get into that here. But he does have some things that causes him to potentially have some more sensitivities to this stuff than falls under the guidelines. So I can honor and respect that, but I do miss it. All these little hoops. Get a notebook.
Yeah, I'm going to right now. After I leave here, I'm going to get one.
Go and get a 4-step notebook. And,
Mike will probably be mad at me when he hears that, but
yeah, it's awful tough to make Mike mad.
Well, it's just been so weird with, like I said, I've been to the grocery store once this week, and it was to run in to grab milk, and it was.
I refuse to prep.
It's very weird. Yeah, I don't prep for anything.
I should have. Yeah, my kids are with me, and I got almost nothing in the house to eat that they like. Because I refuse. Because I don't. I did actually have to go to the pharmacy at the grocery store the other day, and I thought for sure I'd be standing in line, but the line was outside. If you went to the pharmacy inside, stepped right up through the table, but the line for the cash registers was wrapped around the store.
Really?
And I'm like, I am no good at that. And even though maybe I could eat for a month out of what's in the house, me and the kids and Dad. We may not eat what you really like to eat, but you're going to be able to survive. Like one of my clients the other day said, yeah, this can of jalapenos is going to be rough, kids, but it's going to keep us alive.
Oh, it's so wild.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming by today, man, and helping me do this. And I knew that you were here on purpose. And I actually asked you because I think that's going to be kind of neat that someday, down the road, you'll listen back to this podcast, and I think it's going to show you like how much you have shifted, how much different you'll be after, early in this recovery and then after. And man, surviving this whole thing we're doing now, there's some universal karma points that are accrued of making it through recovery during one thing that like getting through recovery, maybe when the economy's all good and all that, and there's really no big stumbling blocks.
Yeah, when you're eating steak and
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
living high on the hog
yeah.
be one thing.
Jumping through when we've got these other struggles in our lives that really wants to make you. I mean, it tells me to drink, dude. Last night, those thoughts were in my head. Like a fuck it. This is bullshit. The liquor stores are getting ready to close up. I probably should get some before it's too late. And I know those are fleeting little things that I know better than, right? So, like, there's just two different levels in the brain talking to me at the same time. It's almost like the devil and the angel things in the cartoons on each shoulder. It's just, and it's a quiet voice. It's not loud. It's not yelling at me. But it's still there, and I can chuckle at it today like, fuck you. No, I ain't doing that. But these stressful times, and then they'll say, okay, well, stop and get a can of dip then. Yeah. We'll negotiate. Here, I'll negotiate with you. And today I look at that just like the same thing. That's like me, even just stop and get a can of dip is almost like saying, you can just have one.
Yeah, I never thought about it like that. I actually stopped and got a can of dip the other day.
After not can dipping for a while?
Like dip's always been a thing that I'm like, I need to put this down, and I'll go back to it, and I'll do a can, and I won't go back to it for a long time. But I actually got a can the other day, and I was like, I didn't really want this, but I guess I'm gonna do it now.
Under this stuff,
yeah.
this environment of that, it's like, okay, man, I'm gonna get a little relief someplace, and I know there will be a little relief inside that can of dip. Nicotine is the hardest thing I've ever quit.
I had no problem giving up the cigarettes. I say that I tried many times, and then I got sick one time,
but you never stopped the drug, right?
What's that?
I mean, so like that's the other thing that I did. I stopped smoking and pat myself on the back, but I just picked up dipping, and so I'm still getting a drug. It's like, okay, I'm gonna stop drinking hard liquor, but I'm gonna keep on drinking beer, or I'm gonna quit the heroin, but I'm gonna still pop pain pills.
Yeah.
It's the same energy, and I patted myself on the back for quitting smoking, and smoking could be looked at as being more harmful. It certainly took the wind and did a lot more. I think it probably is more harmful. It's no safer. It says on the can, this is not a safe alternative to smoking. And then when I started vaping, I thought the same thing. Hey, I quit.
Yeah.
I quit dipping. Y'all should be proud of me. And I'm still doing the drug though. The drug is the thing. But quitting smoking's hard. You want that hit, that down your throat thing.
Yeah,
the vape is hard to remove, and that's when they come up with these hyper vapes that actually gave you a throat punch.
Yeah, that cigarette. I remember liking it, but I can't even handle the smell hardly anymore. Thank God. I'm so glad for that too, because I can imagine picking it back up.
I walk by somebody smoke. I smell it in cars in front of me. Of course, nowadays I'm around. I went over to put that. I just had a door sweep to put on for somebody on a storm door the other day, and I walked into their backyard, and I thought the old lady might have been smoking dope, but it wasn't her. It was coming from the neighborhood someplace. I could smell that dope. I smell it in cars as I'm going down the road. Somebody around is smoking some dope. I light some sage in here once in a while, and somebody will come in. My daughter did not too long ago. It's like, what's that?
I want to tell you, I appreciate you putting this podcast on. I know I told you, but, me and my wife, I was probably 2-3 weeks in to doing AA, hitting meetings basically every day at that point. I might miss one a week, but I would try to double up on another day. Not that I'm that far in now, but she kind of stopped me, and she's, said that, this is your thing, and you're doing all this, and I don't know what the hell's going on, and you're not telling me anything. And, I'm still I'm still a wreck. Don't get me wrong. I feel much calmer now than I have maybe at any point in my life at the moment. But at that point, I was reeling. I was still on my heels. And I didn't have any answers for her. I didn't know what to tell her. I had no idea what to say to her. And actually, earlier that day, I just had thought, like, hey, I know Dan does that podcast. I wonder if Mike's ever done the podcast. And I got on there, and I found Mike on there. And I was like, I thought maybe me and my apprentice will listen to Mike's podcast. And then I started to say something. I was like, And that's weird. It's like my apprentice listening to my sponsor. So I was like, I'm not going to do that. So as soon as I got off, I put it in my truck and I turned it on, and y'all did the greeting, hey, how you doing, Mike? Good. How you doing, Dan? And I was like, I can't listen to this. It's like reading the dude's diary. So I turned it off and I called him. I was like, hey, is it okay? He's like, yeah, it's a podcast. And I was like, I know, but it's a little bit different,
Feels
right?
like eavesdropping.
It's a little bit different, right? And he's like, no, I put it on the internet. And I'm like, okay. He's like, you're building this way too much. And I'm like, all right. But there's people that you notice for whatever reason. And I just happened to notice as I was scrolling through looking for Mike that Nick and his wife had done this podcast. And I didn't know what it was about or anything, but I was like, well, I see what that's about. And it was about the exact thing that I needed at the moment. So this is a hell of a resource you put on for people, and I really appreciate it, man. It helped me tremendously at that point. Still haven't talked to my wife about anything. But
maybe have her listen to that with you.
Yeah. I told her she could listen to it, and she probably will at some point. It's an interesting thing. That's what we did. So I understand the fears that she has. I don't know how to express that to her.
Maybe exactly. She's afraid she'll have to stop too.
Not that so much that she'll have to stop, is that I don't know, because I haven't sat down and had the conversation I probably need to have with her. We talked a little bit.
Of there, anytime and I know that gets into territory it's probably not completely okay to discuss because it is something personal, but anytime our partners are changing and making changes, there's some, obviously there'd be some apprehension in there, and you're like, I don't know what to do, and I don't know what's going on over there, and frankly, you really don't either. You're just kind of doing what people, I'm just like, over here, them guys are saying go that way, and I'm just kind of walking that way. I really don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
All I know is I feel better, and those dudes look happy, and I want that too, and I wasn't happy, and so what do you tell her? I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah. Just doing what they're telling me to.
I think, like I said, she went to the underground, and
yep,
I think that really helped immensely.
I've heard that a bunch of times. But thank you for that. I do love the juice that people share with me. That this has touched them at some level. I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for that. That's my purpose. Is that hopefully, before I start this thing, I pray every time, and my prayer is pretty much the same. We'll have these words in it every single time. Help us to say the things we need to say, so somebody out there hears what they need to hear, so that we can carry this message and hopefully help somebody. It's the only reason I do it. So when I get feedback, I really appreciate feedback that says it did do that.
Yeah, it helped. It's like I still got a weird thing about listening to a lot of them, but I needed that one at that night, so I listened to it. But it is, to me, for some reason, knowing these guys, it seems strange to listen to them. But
yeah, but that's also the cool part, right? Because you can go out there and there's 10,000, hundreds of thousands of speaker tapes out on the internet of people you don't know. But here we get this unique little thing where we can actually listen to people we do know.
Yeah. There's people that I definitely want to listen to. It's just I guess I need to get over that hump at some point and just do it. It's like I said, they put it on the internet, so if they don't expect somebody to listen to it,
it's a podcast and it is broadcast.
Yep.
So it's out there, and that's the reason. Listen to them. There's some people listen to them all, and they wait for them. I'd like to get that feedback. It comes out on Sunday mornings, and they know it. So they're waiting for the next episode to come out on Sunday, and that really touches me that this thing is doing that. I'd have never thought. I'd have never thunk it. I'd have never thunk I was doing a ton of the things I'm doing today in recovery. And I don't know how I'm doing them all. Ross called me yesterday. He said, I don't know how you do all that stuff. I said, I don't either.
That's something I would like to learn too. Time management would be great.
I have no idea. Well, cool, man. Well, thanks for coming in here. I know you need to go notebook shopping, and we sat in here and we talked for like 2 hours before we ever turned on the microphones, and so we better get to recording. And I was a little bit worried that maybe we'd have burned up our content, but we just picked right up and didn't make any difference. We could have had a 4-hour podcast here, but
nobody listening.
Frankly, some of the stuff we talked about before is not for public consumption. So appreciate you being here, man. I love watching your journey, man. I love you.
I love you, bub. I
Yeah,
do.
you
I love
do. I
it.
walk this thing, man. And I run into people, and I know. I go, it almost is like that guy's on my team, and I just met him. I know him. I didn't know you, but there's something about that, and it's like, and then you start rooting for him, And when I knew Mike was sponsoring you, I was like, good. Mike can give you these tools. I know. I helped him get them, and so it's like, cool. That guy's going to make it. He's okay. It's almost like setting a soldier on a helicopter flying out of a combat zone or something. Waiting for that to happen. Christopher told LJ the other day when he came, said, hey, don't worry about it. At some point, Bruno's going to knock on the door and Dan's going to have to do that. At some point, the Bing is going to go off on his computer and he'll have to talk about that. At some point, the heat will need to be adjusted and we'll have to do that. And at some point, the compressor will kick on. And we'll deal with that. They'll seem to be staples. So although a few of those things didn't happen, that did. That's like 2 hours, though. That's better than 2. No, it hasn't kicked on. You've been here 4 hours and it hadn't dropped down enough, didn't lose enough air to kick on.
Nope.
I like that. It means my compressor is not leaking much. They all leak a little bit. Cool. Thanks for coming in again. I know I said it like 4 times, man, and we'll get you back and then get you back again like here down the road when you're got the tools under your belt, and that'll be really cool. Maybe even patch some of this together and here's what it was like. Here's what it's like today. Thank you all for listening. spiritualunderground.org, 12-Step Spiritual Recovery, James Christopher Cohn on Amazon. Darren and Frank's music wrapped around this thing. My little business, dtmww.net, and under these times, I could use the work. So, especially woodshop work. That way I can stay my social distancing. If you're not having a blast in your recovery, it's your own damn fault. And thank you all for allowing me to participate in my recovery in this manner today. Peace out.
Always tried to be just who they wanted. Always tried to do everything they said. Only did the things they would approve of. Lock away all your dreams inside your head. Year after year you try to be a good girl. They never failed to point out when you were bad. Stuck to the program like a robot. Became a trophy for mom and dad. But inside you want more. Everything you've been waiting for. Looking for that open door. So every day in your head, in your heart just keeps saying, let go and fly. You must work hard.